Before we get started, I want to remind everyone that the information in this presentation is not to be or construed as investment advice. The information presented are subject to change without notice, and while we have made every reasonable effort to ensure that the content is reliable and accurate, we have not independently verified the content and are not responsible for errors therein. Please consult a professional advisor before putting a loonie in any of these financial markets.
Hi everyone, my name is Richard Diaz and welcome back to the IceCap Canadian Market Wrap. In this week's video, we will touch on what's going on around the world and how it might impact Canadians and their investments here at home. Keeping a close eye on the goings-on around the world is important to us at IceCap because it relates to one of our central investment themes, and that is global risk is synchronized. It is our view that events halfway around the world can have repercussions at home and in your portfolio. So we're going to spend some time discussing some trigger points and how they might relate to what's going on in Canada. Let's start with the UK and something Canadians know all too well: immigration. Data that was just revised confirmed what many in the UK have been saying for a long time. Net migration is out of control. In the 12 months up to June 2023, it was up to 906,000, far higher than previous estimates. In 2024, the UK is on pace to repeat the feat. This is completely unsustainable for many of the same reasons it is in Canada. Never mind that the UK is a fraction of the size and one of the most populated countries in the world. Like with Canada, much of the immigration is low-wage and low-skilled labor. This has contributed to a huge drag on productivity and, importantly, the tax base. As you can see from the chart, the knock-on effects, as we see in Canada, are higher inflation, higher interest rates, and it has contributed to lower investment. Now, in an incredible twist of irony, newly elected PM Sir Keir Starmer has accused the Tories of using Brexit to deliberately run an open border experiment in the UK and has vowed to end it. This is because in a world of high debts and rising interest rates, productivity growth is paramount, and so is the tax base. In France, the central government is completely incapable of running a balanced budget. This should also sound familiar. The last time France ran a surplus was in 1974. So why is this news today? Well, persistent budget deficits have significantly increased its public debt, which now exceeds 110% of GDP. And as global interest rates rise, the cost of serving that debt adds to the budget burden and diverts funds away from critical investments like infrastructure, education, or healthcare. Furthermore, raising taxes and high public spending contribute to weak competitiveness, low investment, and ultimately poor economic growth. In short, France's productivity has stalled, and the market is finally starting to question the sustainability of its debt. And that's exactly what this chart shows. France's spread over the German bond is at a 12-year high. Now, to be clear, this is in part because of an acute political dysfunction related to passing the budget. But more generally, it's rising because of the economic vulnerabilities and the potential long-term risks that many countries like Canada face around growing debt levels. Debts in Canada and elsewhere are unsustainable, and the cost of that debt is rising. Next, we have Germany. And again, there are parallels to Canada, not from the high debts, but from disastrous energy policy that has been imposed on consumers and businesses alike. Capital investment, productivity, and growth have stalled as a result. Business sentiment is also collapsed as energy prices, now the second highest in the EU, are making life unaffordable for German industry. Now, admittedly, this is partly due to the Russian invasion of Ukraine and the cutting off of natural gas, but this is also due to the fact that they've shifted over to renewable energies and have shut down 6 perfectly good nuclear power plants in recent years. Now, Germany is an enormous energy consumer, nearly twice that of France, as you can see from the chart. Energy is a critical input for their industry, but no cheap energy, no industry, no jobs, and we are seeing job cuts and rising unemployment for the euro area's largest economy. Not good. As a result, there's been huge political backlash, and this has led to an early election, whose knock-on effects put the whole European project at risk. Naturally, there are major implications for the euro, one of the world's major currencies, and such a crisis would have huge implications for financial markets. In China, the world's second largest economy, we are still witnessing the fallout from the real estate bust. China's property prices have now been falling for a record 12 months in a row. And as you can see from the chart, floor sales, a proxy for real estate activity, has collapsed as buyers have stopped making mortgage payments due to construction delays and concerns over falling prices. A couple of months ago, Chinese authorities fired a huge fiscal and monetary policy bazooka to arrest the decline in house prices, consumer confidence, and consumption. But as Richard Koo, the chief economist from Nomura Bank, a Chinese investment bank, says, China is already in a balance sheet recession. This means that there's a lot more pain ahead. Now, notwithstanding the bump we've seen in equity markets, the huge debt burdens, the economic weakness, and resulting capital flight is putting huge pressure on the Chinese yuan. And again, this is a global risk that cannot be overlooked. So of course, there's more. For example, global freight costs are rising again with Middle East tensions. The auto coup in South Korea is fascinating and has sent the Korean won and the equity market tumbling. And then there's Brazil and Japan that do not inspire confidence at all. But I want to focus on what central banks are doing to mitigate the problems in their economies. Record levels of government debt are smashing into the reality of much higher interest rates. Now, this is unsustainable, but with no political appetite for austerity, central banks are forced to do all the heavy lifting again and lower interest rates. And that's exactly what you can see is happening in this chart. The rates are all moving lower together. Policy is synchronized. Now, this might spur another round of inflation, but that'll be the subject of another video. When we look at the equity market, we see a similar trend. Besides the outliers, US and India, the major equity markets are moving in concert. Now, this is key because retail investors are often told about the importance of diversification. But in a crisis like COVID in 2020 or the Russian invasion of Ukraine in 2022, right when you need diversification the most, correlations go to one. That is to say, the indexes fall together. Or in other words, investors are not really diversified at all. Furthermore, as global risks intensify, there seems to be a real complacency in one of the world's most important markets. That is corporate credit. In particular, high-yield corporate credit. The way we measure this is via spreads. The spread reflects additional yield that investors demand for taking on the extra risk associated with corporate bonds compared to risk-free or government bonds. This compensates investors for credit risk or risk of default, liquidity risk or the risk that bonds might be harder to buy and sell at a fair price, and of course, market conditions, reflecting macroeconomic factors like inflation, interest rates, and broader market sentiment. As you can see from the chart, spreads are at or near all-time lows, and this is true for European high-yield corporate credit and Canadian high-yield credit too. This means that even though there's plenty of risks, investors are not being fairly compensated. And again, there's an issue with diversification. Our view is given the multitude of trigger points combined with weak growth in key markets, the unsustainable government debt levels, and the heightened geopolitical risk, something is wrong here. And it behooves everyone to keep a close eye on this. So that's a wrap for this week's episode. Thanks again for listening. Please like, subscribe, and follow for more. And as always, feel free to get in touch.